Okay, I'm gonna switch to speaker view for my own preferences. Hey everybody, it is our first clinic of our, whatever this is, our corn season. I don't know what to call this time in our training, but it's our first summer clinic, and I'm super excited to be introducing someone who I have known since she was 13 years old, which means she has known.
Carrie, real quick, before you do the intro, do you want to just do the disclaimer that we're recording?
Oh, yeah, we're recording. So if you don't want, this will just go up on our resource page. So no one's going to find it unless they look very hard for it or they're on our team. But if you don't want your beautiful smiling face to show up, then turn your face off. Morgan is definitely going to keep that beautiful shiny face on there. So thank you, Jim, for the reminder. Everybody, I was in the middle of introducing our friend, Nicole Alai. We have known Nicole since she was 13. She has known us since before we were married. She was at our wedding, which is kind of crazy. So we have known Nicole since she was one of our athletes, just like you, and has grown up to do something amazing and special and awesome and beneficial to you guys. So because I've known her for so long and I really just love embarrassing her, I made some slides. And of course, I did not show Nicole these slides because she would have said, please don't show those to high school kids. So here we go. Here's Nicole's official intro. I'm going to go to, oh, wait, did I share my screen? Okay, I forgot. Here we go. Share screen. Okay, so I'm going to go to present mode, but that means I have to move. Okay. Okay, so you guys have heard us talking about Nicole and promoting her. Some of you have met her in the past. She did do a mini clinic Quinn's freshman year with Coach Hillary at Jolynn before she was Coach Hillary. And I think Nicole, we used some of her materials in track season when we talked to you guys about nutrition, but this is Nicola Alai. She is a professional sports performance dietitian. And Nicole, after we start, before you hop into your presentation, I want to ask the question about what's the difference between a dietitian and a nutritionist. So that is Nicole. Here's a picture of Nicole in high school, because I thought that you should all know, right? We all start out little high school runner people. But she does have an athletic background. She's been a cross country and track runner. Nicole made 2 appearances at the California State meet in high school. Oops. She's a part of a team that were CIF runners up. Before that performance, Nicole gave one of the most memorable pump it up speeches of my coaching career. She was the Sunset League champion at 800 meters. Nicole, I guessed on your times. I went off of memory. Did you run 2:17?
Yes.
There you go. 2:17, 800 meter runner. And she was a member of, I wrote all because I was starting to write all distance. And then I think there might've been one sprinter that was in there, but CIF finalist, 4x400 meter team where Nicola Alai, distance runner, ran a 57-second split, which those of you female distance runners know that's no joke. Her educational background, I thought I'd throw in another running picture just for fun. She has a bachelor's in public health from UCI. She has a second bachelor's in dietetics from San Francisco State and a master's in nutritional science from Cal State Long Beach. And her professional background, I've talked to you guys about this before. She's worked with athletes at UCLA, with the LA Galaxy, and most recently with the U.S. Olympic Committee at the Olympic Training Center. Nicole, you tell me which were the athletes that you worked with. I'll stop sharing my screen.
Yeah, so we worked with the acrobat and combat athletes. So that included 11 sports, and within that included 28 teams, so hundreds of athletes. These sports included boxing, diving, fencing, gymnastics, taekwondo, wrestling, surfing, skateboarding. Did I say karate?
No, I don't think you did.
I'm drawing a blank. Artistic swimming or synchronized swimming, taekwondo, wrestling, diving.
It's okay. You don't have to know all of them, but 11 different disciplines that were high performance athletes. And didn't you also, I'm remembering stuff, didn't you also do your master's thesis with gymnasts and distance runners?
I did it with distance runners. Actually, I just created the curriculum, but then when I helped another grad student implement it, we did it with J. Sarah High School and Long Beach Poly High School. So just education on nutrition and actually applying it and then sending us pictures and stuff.
Which is pretty awesome. So during that time, Nicole and I were running together, and she was chatting with me about her project and the athletes that she was able to serve. And so that was really cool. So I know you have a presentation for us, Nicole, and I see that you're already answering questions in the chat. But before we got started, I thought it would be helpful because I know I'm not like super educated on the difference between a nutritionist and a dietitian. And I know that people who are dietitians want to make sure that those of us misinformed understand the difference. So can we start there before you hop into your presentation?
Yeah, so a nutritionist is somebody that, maybe I should start with a dietitian. Dietitian is someone who has to go to an undergraduate program and major in dietetics and take 4 years worth of, first 2 years of general education, and the last 2 years are more dietetic or dietitian specific courses. And after that, then they have to apply to be accepted or matched into a 1,200 hour supervised practice. It's very competitive to get in because each program that offers it only takes 10 or 12 students. And then once you complete that program, you sit to take the RD exam, you become a dietitian. And I think in the next few years, it'll be mandated that they get a master's in nutrition, I believe. So, and then from there, we typically separate into clinical, food service, sports, any sort of pathway. And then you get more experience in that specific area. But a nutritionist has no certification, has no bachelor's, has no licensure. In other states, there is a licensure, so you have to submit to the state and complete an exam, another exam, and then you can get the LD. But California and Colorado don't have that. So a nutritionist could be anyone, really. I like to say it could be, you know, an infant. Anyone could be calling themselves a nutritionist is pretty much what I'm saying.
Got it. So it doesn't mean that someone who calls themselves a nutritionist doesn't know their stuff, but it also doesn't mean that they do know their stuff.
Right, yeah.
I'm a nutritionist and smoked meat on the Traeger. That doesn't need any certification unless you've tasted my brisket.
Yeah.
Well, I don't want to downplay. There's probably amazing nutritionists out there, but I think what I'm hearing is if you work with a dietitian, you know you're working with someone who's professionally trained. If you work with a nutritionist, you probably need to know. You probably need to do some homework about that.
Yeah, you got to be careful. You got to definitely do your homework and learn more. I think that if you come to somebody with RD after their name, they will say it to the world. They're like, I'm a dietitian, but a nutritionist won't say that. They'll say they're a nutritionist. If they say they're a dietitian, that's illegal. So.
Got it. Okay, so you are here to talk to us about the role of nutrition in what we're doing as distance runners. We've talked to the team a little bit about that it's important. We've talked to them that it aids in recovery, but we know you can go much deeper. So take it away, Nicole.
All right. Do you guys see this PowerPoint?
Yeah, we do.
Yes. Okay, I just want to go there. Okay, so do you see the presenter view or just the PowerPoint?
I see it's taken over my whole screen. I can't see your slides on the side.
Okay, good stuff. All right, yeah, so Carrie came to me and she said, let's do a presentation for you guys on nutrition for distance runners. So I like that it was specific for you guys. And because I have a background, I'm able to like give more realistic examples. So this is gonna be great. All right, let's get right into it. But first, I just wanna make sure, feel free to write in the chat, but I want to see if I can get through all of this. If you have any really like urgent questions, feel free to say it out loud, but I want to see if I can get through all of this and then we can answer some questions at the end. I think we'll have more than enough time. So this slide talks about like a question that you should ask yourself, like why is good nutrition important for you as runners? And really it comes down to good nutrition that positively affects, energy, sleep, immune system, bone health, digestion, recovery, healing. Just to name a few, there are a lot more areas where nutrition can positively affect your inevitably performance in competition and racing. So I'll go into examples of these at the very end. So how do you optimize your nutrition? Like, what do you have to do in order to make sure that you're getting everything that you need so that your training and practice translates to your race? And it's a 3-step process. So the first step includes the components of nutrition, which are your macros and your micronutrients, which are pretty much your food groups, all your food groups. And then the second step is combining those food groups into specific plates. And there are 3 different types of plates, and they're based off in training intensity and training duration. So I'll give examples of those later. And the last step is combining those plates at certain times of day, and then also incorporating snacking or fueling before and after training. So it comes down to timing based on your schedule, based on a lot of other factors. So we'll go into the first step, which is the components of nutrition, and that includes your macros, which are your carbohydrates, your protein, your fat, and then your micronutrients, so vitamins and minerals. And specifically, I'll talk about vitamin D, calcium, and iron. And then most importantly, hydration, which includes water and salt. So let's get into carbohydrates. And just like the basics of carbohydrates, we can talk more about this later. I just wanted to give you the gist and why they're important. So carbohydrates are necessary to convert energy for low, moderate, and high intensity activities. So that's everything you do. And so that's why carbohydrates is the first thing we talk about. And there are 2 different types of carbohydrates. And I wanted to just say, like, just an easy way of knowing it is that there are fast digesting ones, and then there are slow digesting carbs. So fast digesting carbs are ones that when you eat it, it goes straight to the bloodstream and is used immediately. For me, I like to give the example of when I'm running a half marathon, and then you get out your gel and you take a little squeeze of it, and it just gives you life again. And that just pretty much means that you had used up all your stores and you needed a little bit of extra something, an extra bit of carbs. And then the slow digesting are more of your higher fiber ones. So those can be like your oatmeals, your whole wheat type of bread or grains, and also some high fiber fruits and veggies, pretty much. And then it goes over the food sources. So your grains, starches, fruits, vegetables, dairy kind of gets underrepresented, but it is in the carbohydrate, but it also has fat and protein. And then of course your sweets. Next, we talk about protein. So protein is primarily used to build and repair muscles, but it can be used for energy, which is not optimal. We do not want to take from our muscles and use it as an energy source. So 2 different types of proteins are your animal protein and your plant protein. Animal proteins typically have all your amino acids. There are 26 of them, and we need them in order to make strong ligaments, bone, but also, of course, muscle, which is what you need to push off the ground or to sprint to the end of your race. But there's also the plant protein option, and there are some plant proteins out there that don't have all your amino acids, but there are some that do. So you just combine the 2, the different types of plant proteins, and usually you're able to make a complete protein. And so your examples include poultry, meat, fish, dairy, lentils, beans, tofu, tempeh, seeds and nuts. And then Beyond Meat is a good one because it does have all your complete protein. It just tends to be very expensive. And now fat is our last macronutrient. And like it says, it's primarily used as a source of energy during low intensity. So low intensities are your long runs, your long, and I would want to say comfortably long runs. And during your rest, also during your rest days, and also during your easy runs. Your body's going to be using fat for those days. And we have unsaturated fat, polyunsaturated fat, and then we have saturated fat. So I like to focus on a specific type, which is our omega-3 fatty acids. We have to eat them in order to get the benefits from it. So the benefits include that it's an anti-inflammatory. When people say anti-inflammatory, I bet you're probably thinking, what does that mean? And it pretty much means it's inside the body. Sometimes when we work really hard, a lot of A lot of, it can get very heated, or a lot of like sort of negative things tend to pop out. And in order to put that negative thing back into a positive, you need to eat sort of an omega-3, an antioxidant, in order to stop like a chain reaction of negative events, or stop chronic fatigue or chronic ailments. You need to make sure that you're incorporating omega-3s as one of many things to incorporate in your diet. So fish typically has a high amount of omega-3 fatty acids, but so do seeds, nuts, and algae. But overall, fat sources include butter, oil, seeds, nuts, and fish. And I'll give examples of this later as well. Next, we'll go into micronutrients. So vitamins, there are two types: water soluble, which are your vitamin C and B vitamins. There are a lot of B vitamins. I'm not going to list them. And typically what happens with water soluble vitamin, and you'll notice that if you take a multivitamin, whatever your body doesn't use, it'll pee out, and your pee typically looks like a neon yellow, and that's just B vitamins. And it's not a bad thing. It happens. It's good. It's a regulatory process in our body. The other option of vitamins are fat soluble. So those are our vitamin A, D, E, and K. And like it says right there, you have to eat the fat to absorb the vitamin. So I think people sometimes forget about that. And so that's why, like, let's see, most of these vitamins are found in veggies. Veggies don't have a lot of fat. And so if you think about the way that you prepare vegetables, if you saute them, you put a little bit of oil into the pan in order for, obviously, for it to not stick, but it works out well because you're adding fat along with your fat soluble vitamins. But most importantly, I wanted to talk about vitamin D. It's new, and I don't know if a lot of people tell you guys about this, but vitamin D is like the precursor for hormones. So testosterone, estrogen, but also for cortisol and a lot of other brain hormones. So it plays a role with, brain health as well as bone strength, as you can see in this crazy like physiology figure. I wanted to put that there to kind of show you, hey, vitamin D plays a role in a lot of things. And so when you don't eat it, all those things don't function normally. But when you do eat it, all of these things can function normally. And so a big one is bone health, or rebuilding bone. And so examples of food sources that contain vitamin D include fortified cereals, orange juice, sun-dried mushrooms, fish, eggs, cheese, and of course the sun. But a lot of research out there is saying that many of you endurance athletes, although, you guys are, I hate to use this word, like partially half naked out there running, and you think, okay, I'm getting all this, vitamin D through the sun. You are a group that tends to be low in vitamin D. And I think it also comes down to the fact that you have low body fat because you're running so much, and so you're a group that needs to think about that more than, you really need to incorporate vitamin D because of that. So next we'll go over minerals. Calcium and iron are two big ones. Calcium helps to build and repair bones. We know this. And so therefore it helps to prevent stress fractures. And symptoms of low calcium include, people who have a lot of broken bones. And then also, I believe kidney stones can be a precursor to low calcium levels. So we know the foods that typically contain calcium. It includes milk, fortified non-dairy milks, cheese, tofu, leafy greens, and then also iron, on the other hand, is needed in order for red blood cells to carry oxygen to your muscles. Iron is needed in that red blood cell, or else it won't carry the oxygen efficiently. And therefore you'll feel tired, cold, weak. You'll feel like you'll look pale, and you'll have a really fast heartbeat. So if those are things that you see in yourself, or someone has said that about you, you need to take note of this. You might be insufficient or deficient in iron. And so food sources that are high in iron are animal proteins, leafy greens. Leafy greens, you'd really have to eat a lot. So it's just something to remember. And then fortified cereals. The fortified cereals are my go-to because you guys like cereal. And so why not have like a cup of cereal, which is typically, 100% of your daily iron needs. It's easy. And then have it with a cup of milk or a cup and a half of milk. And then you have your calcium and your vitamin D, and you get everything in one, so it makes it easier. And lastly, what's very important about iron, and I put this image at the top left, is that you need vitamin C to absorb iron. It's a multi-step process, but you can see that vitamin C is necessary in order for the Fe, the iron, to be taken into the blood. So if there's no vitamin C consumed with your iron, then you're not really absorbing it as effectively. So doctors will say, please take your iron in the morning with orange juice. That's the reason why. And lastly, what's very important about these two is they can compete against each other sometimes. So say your doctor gave you a prescription for iron. I don't recommend, taking the iron and then with the orange juice and then eating a bunch of spinach, because calcium tends to compete for a position to get absorbed into the body with iron. So calcium always wins. So iron won't get absorbed. And so this supplement is not going to help you because you continue to eat it with a lot of calcium. You want to separate that, give it a few hours. So just like little tidbits to remember. And then lastly, in this section is hydration. So performance can be negatively affected by 2 to 3% loss in body weight from sweat. No doubt you people are sweating a lot for sure. I'm sure you lose a pound or 2 or more from sweat. So you'll notice if you're dehydrated that you can't concentrate, you feel really tired or fatigued, you have a headache, nausea, muscle cramps, and then your heart will also race as well. So recommendations include having, 1 to 2 cups of water around, 3 hours before practice or more. It depends on you. It depends on how much you sweat, to be honest. And then, 15 to 30 minutes before, you can have a cup of water. Just, spread it out, a couple sips here and there so you don't have the water belly. And then during training, this gets a little bit complicated. I think this is more for the longer distance runners. I would say after 60 minutes, really try to stop at a drinking fountain, get a couple sips of water, and then keep going. And then after training, if you really want to know how much you need to replenish, I would say weigh yourself before training and weigh yourself after training. See how much weight you lost. If you lost a pound, then you need to drink 16 to 24 ounces, which is like 2 to 3 cups of water over the rest of the day, on top of like drinking a few more cups, because then you're going to go to bed and you're going to dehydrate yourself again. So those are just good general guidelines. And lastly, with your sports drinks, Gatorades, they used to be actually really salty back in the day, and that's technically how they should be. In order to absorb and be hydrated again, you need salt, you need sodium. They go hand in hand. Without one, you're not really absorbing the other. So when I say have a couple of cups of water after practice, I'm assuming you're also going to have a meal that has salt in it. So that's why if you're not going to be eating a meal and you're going to have like a snack that is maybe like not that salty, I would say sprinkle some salt into a Gatorade or into your coconut water or your water, flavor it a little bit so that you are able to absorb all that water and actually be hydrated. Next, we'll go into the second step in optimizing nutrition, and that's just putting them into plates. So we'll get right into it. And just to remember, these are guidelines. When you come to a dietitian, he or she will be more specific for you and your schedule. And so the first plate is our easy training or weight management. I don't really do weight management. You guys don't really need that. You guys are perfect. Typically, this would work well for your easy day, so your 30-minute runs or less, and then also for your rest day, and for those who are maybe post-injury, and I'll explain in a second. So what you'll see to the right is your plate. Half the plate is fruits and veggies, a quarter or less is grains, a quarter or more is protein. And in a situation where it would be a quarter or more of protein would be for your injured athletes, your stress fractures, broken bones, stuff like that. And the reason why is because you need a little bit more protein to help with that recovery process, the healing process. And so an example, and I use breakfast as an example, and like I said, this is just a general guideline. This would be like 1 slice of toast, tablespoon of peanut butter, and then maybe you can add like half a banana on there, and then also have half a banana on the side with 2 hard-boiled eggs. I bet that seems like a big breakfast. But that's because I doubt that some of you guys eat breakfast in the morning. So trust me, it was difficult to give this information to some of the athletes. They don't eat this much, but this is what, based on calculations that I've made, that this is what you need in order to optimize your performance and nutrition, get all your vitamins and minerals. So there's a reason behind it. I'm not trying to just make you eat all these calories for nothing. So the next slide, we have our moderate training. And Carrie could correct me, but I'm going to say more of your longer runs, 45 to 60 minutes. And I want to say tempo days, but I guess it just depends on the athlete. The tempo might be, for a higher caliber athlete, might be into the hard training plate, but it just depends on the day. So I would say 45 to 60 minutes of running, put that in the moderate training plate. And so what you'll notice is that the grains increased, the veggies decreased, but the protein stayed the same. So protein isn't going to change. It's just a matter of when you eat the protein, and we'll talk about that later. So here, an example would be lunch. 2 slices of bread. I'm making a sandwich. 2 slices of bread, a palm size full of like deli meat, and I'll show you an example in a little bit. A few slices of lettuce, tomatoes, onions, maybe half a tablespoon of mayo, a slice of cheese, and a small piece of fruit on the side. So like you're making a sandwich, and I'm sure this is something that you do make, you know, at lunch before, a few hours before practice. So that would be considered a moderate training plate. The hard training plate, you'll notice a difference. The grains are now half the plate, and the reason why is because it's a hard day and you've depleted all your energy stores, and we need to replenish it back to normal. And if we don't, then it's going to use muscle to replenish it back to normal, and so we want to avoid that. And this would be the case for 90 minutes or greater, double days or race days. It just depends on the person. And so an example, and I'm going to give an example of dinner. It's 1.5 cups of brown rice, palm size full of salmon, which has your healthy fat, and I wanted to include veggies and fruit. So a half a cup of veggies on the plate, and then a side of like 1 piece of fruit. So this is kind of an image of what a dinner option for a hard training plate. This is something that I would make for our athletes so that they had all the options out there. So grains and starches, what 1 carb serving or 1 grain starch serving is equivalent to a half a cup of most of these things, like rice, pasta, granola. Like for the most part, half a cup is like the general guideline. And so for this person, because it was a moderate day, I said, you have to choose 2 of these. So half a cup of potatoes, half a cup of oats. And protein was always going to be 3 eggs or 2 cups of almond milk, 6 ounces of Greek yogurt. It was a specific number for them. And then the veggies, you could pick 1 fruit or 1 vegetable, depending on your meal, breakfast, lunch, or dinner. And then you could pick a fat. And then these are some examples of samples of meals. So this is kind of what we would provide them, so they didn't feel like they had options to choose from. An important thing to remember is portion sizing. I think that's what gets people in trouble sometimes. So this is a great way for when you're at home to be able to use your hands, or when you're at, I don't know, when you're eating out or something, use your hand as a guide. So when you use the palm, that's 3 to 4 ounces of lean meat, which typically meets your protein needs for a meal. If you use a cupped hand, that's around half a cup of grains, which is your 1 starch or grain serving. And for that person, they needed 2 of these. And then 1 closed fist would be equivalent to a cup of fruit or a cup of vegetables. So if you can just visualize it as best as you can, like as you're putting your plate together, it'll help you. And then a thumb would be equivalent to a fat. But for me, I don't think you need to include the fat because it's already in your meal. You've used some sort of oil to cook it, or it's been incorporated somehow. So what about the snacks? I can't forget the snacks. This is kind of a lot, but I just wanted to give you sort of a handout of what we would give to our athletes. And it's important to fuel properly. So sometimes if you guys eat at 12, but you have practice at 3, you might want to eat something 30 minutes before practice because it's been too long. That means your body has used up that energy. Not all of it, but enough of it may not be enough to fuel you for your practice. So in that case, you might want to have a pouch of applesauce or 2, because in this case, 30 minutes before or 30 minutes after, we recommend around 30 grams of carbohydrates. During training, if you're running greater than 60 minutes, we do recommend that you have around 15 grams of carbs every 15 minutes or 30 grams every 30 minutes. And it just depends on the type of snack that you choose. It can be very easy to get that, or it can be very hard. You'd need like a couple wheat thins or whatever. You would want to use a GU or a block. It'd be easier that way. And then after practice, we recommend 20 to 25 grams of protein, which you usually get in your dinner or your whatever meal you eat after practice. So it just depends if you have if you're able to go home and eat a meal, then you're good to go. You may not need a snack. But if you don't have time and you're going to go do something else before you do eat dinner and a couple hours will pass, then I would say get yourself like a 1 ounce of peanut butter and like a full banana, or get yourself, what else? Like a snack pack of jerky, and then some Core Power, like chocolate milk, something. But again, the dietitian can give you specifics. So it's just some recommendations. Last step is timing your food. So pre and post workout meals and snacks. And this is much more specific, and it considers work, training, volunteer, homework, all of the above. You guys have a crazy schedule. And I know this because before I came back home, I was working with the junior Olympic gymnasts, and my God, they have a complicated schedule. It was very hard to fit in food at the right time and fit in snacks at the right time. It's hard. So I understand. I feel for you. And so this is an example of, this person was, out of college. She's an Olympic diver, and she had 2 practices a day. And for her, because she is an Olympic level, elite level athlete, they're always going to be a moderate or a hard training plate. They're never really going to be an easy plate unless it's like a rest day. But even still, like those days almost feel like they should still be on a moderate training plate. So she would train in the morning from 10 to 11. Yeah, that's 90 minutes, but she's not really doing consistent exercise for 90 minutes. So she didn't need a snack in the middle. And so after her training, she would go straight to lunch. So a snack was not necessary. But then later on in the day, right before her second training, she ate a snack, and then she went to training, and it was hard. So dinner was a hard training plate. So it's kind of an example of how we would put meals and snacks at the right time of day so that you were able to fuel properly, rebuild your muscles, replenish your glycogen stores. So if you put it all together, all of those steps will get you to all of these fueling needs. So kind of what I talked about earlier, energy is needed to fuel the muscles to move and for the brain to focus and execute a racing plan. So, and also when we talk about protein, we need it to heal our muscles from tears or injuries from ligaments. And then when I talk about post-workout snacks, we need those because we need to replace all of the glucose that's lost from our muscles after doing like a 60-minute workout or 60-minute run. And if we don't do that, that means it'll use muscles and it'll convert it to an energy, and it'll put it into that storage form. So we don't want the muscles to be converted to glucose because we want to keep them there. We want them for power and strength and force. And then digestion. So if you're eating a lot of fiber, you're having regular bowel movements. And then also when you get all your fiber from your fruits and veggies, you're also introducing healthy gut bacteria, which play a role on minimizing the amount of time that you get like respiratory infections and just prevents you from getting sick. And then when you incorporate milk and vitamin D into your diet, you're maintaining strong bones, preventing stress fractures. And then also with the vitamin D, it helps to minimize the risk of getting respiratory infections. So colds, I got so many colds in high school, it was crazy. And now I kind of know why. And then last but most importantly, I would say, because it can really dictate everything above it, is if you're not getting enough sleep, purely from poor appetite or poor diet, or just sometimes you guys are so busy you forget to eat, I swear, or forget to snack, or forget to do any of those. So if you're not eating enough protein that give you the amino acids to make those specific hormones, then everything above it really can crumble. So sleep is essential. And so if you remember, nutrition should be personalized for your overall health. Like we talk about sports, but there might be other things going on that are not related to sports. Like you have allergies or you take medications. It's a multifactorial. And then if you consider intensity, duration of practice, and then scheduling around your day, like that makes it more personalized to you. So to the right is a picture of a picture that I took of a meal that I had at the Olympic Training Center. And so this is an example of like an easy plate. You have your one protein, you have your fruit, you have your veggies, and you have your starches or grains right there. So it's kind of a good visual. And so if you need help with personalizing your nutrition, you can contact me. You can follow me on like Instagram or Twitter. I would say Instagram is a lot more visual friendly. I like to post stuff on there about just like infographics and fun nutrition tips. But if you guys all want me to go and provide some personalized handouts about sweating and hydration, I can do that too, or give more presentations, specific stuff. I'm happy to do that.
Okay, Nicole, first of all, can you go back one slide so people have a chance to grab your info? I just want to tell everybody who has an Instagram to please follow Nicole on Instagram. She's, what are you on Instagram? Fueling the Mind RD. She's always has good stuff. So if I were like more Instagram savvy, I would know how to like grab her stuff and post it to you guys other places, but I don't. So I just look at it and go, oh, that would be good to tell the team. So please follow Nicole on Instagram. Nicole, thank you so much. That was super informative. I'm sure that there are probably questions. So I'm going to shut up and see if you guys have questions for Nicole. And yes, we would be happy to have you back.
Let's see. Yeah.
I have a question. So,
Let's
you guys
do
hear
it.
me?
Yes.
Okay. So on a track meet, if you have two races, like an hour apart, would you recommend eating like a quick snack, like a protein bar in between the two races?
Yeah, so I would definitely eat. This is going to be something that you might have to practice at practice. Sort of, you want to simulate it. So maybe after a warm up, right before you do a workout, try having like a few bites of a protein bar, but make sure that there's carbs in that protein bar, because that's going to be what you need the most. You'll eat protein after your second race. Don't worry about that. What you need at that moment is to get enough carbs, because if you don't have enough carbs, then it will use muscle to fuel your performance. So yes, I would eat just something with like 30 grams of carbohydrates. If there's like 10 grams of protein, that's good too.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Nicole, we have a question in the chat. What are some examples of fortified cereal? I'm guessing it's not Captain Crunch or Count Chocula.
Yeah. Okay. So I don't know like all the brands off the top of my head, but typically they will say it on there. They will say fortified with vitamin A, fortified with vitamin D. And then those are the big ones right now. It used to be, I think it used to be calcium and something else. The big ones are vitamin A and vitamin D, and the nutrition labels on these packages have changed. So they really put it on blast. They say like, this is, in some of those labels, they say like, this is the calories, but they'll show you at the bottom, like this is the vitamin D and this is the vitamin A. And if it says 50% of DV, which is your daily value, then you'll know like, okay, I'm getting 50%. And then if I'm, outside in the sun for 30 minutes, then I'll be good. But it's, like I said, sometimes it requires me looking at your blood work to like really get you there. If you're very like deficient, then you might need a vitamin D supplement at the end of the day. So it's complicated, but I would say look at the packaging. Usually they say 100% daily value of vitamin D. I would imagine. Why would they say 50? Like they try to get all in there. So I would look at that.
I have a question about supplements, Nicole, which is, so one, I learned something today, even though Morgan already told me calcium and iron, don't do them at the same time. For some reason, when I started, I noticed Quinn had several of the signs of anemia, and so I started her on an iron supplement, and I've been giving it to her with the calcium supplement. So chances are she's not getting that iron, right?
Right. Yeah. So I would separate those, give them a few hours.
And then my other question is about supplements in general. Like, do you recommend them? I hear you saying like, I've heard every doctor I know recently say like every American needs to be taking vitamin D. What's your thought on supplements and when are they necessary?
So when you're deficient, they're necessary. Sometimes when you're insufficient, they are necessary. And for vitamin D and iron, there are levels: deficient, insufficient, sufficient, above. With vitamin D, they're finding that it plays a role with just sickness and illnesses. And that most people are deficient, especially runners are deficient, because you guys have low body fat. So where do they store the vitamin D? So you have to get a lot of it, you know? And so it depends on your blood work, and it depends on how low you are. If you're in like the insufficient, I would say try to get more hours outside in the sun, or try to eat more fish or fortified cereals or non-dairy milk alternatives with vitamin D. With the iron, if you're not a big meat eater, that could be troublesome. And so it would either require me creating a plan for you that like really pushes a lot of iron, but it can be very hard for you to consume it, or you can just go to your doctor and see if you can get a prescription for iron. You can do that, or you don't have to go to the doctor, and I can recommend specific brands that have been third-party tested to ensure that what's in it is actually iron, so that you can take that in the morning with vitamin C and, you know, track it over 3 months. So supplements are bad. It just depends. That's always our answer. It's a bad answer, but I would say if you're insufficient or deficient, maybe consider taking a supplement, but I would make sure that it's a good brand and it's been third-party tested.
I don't think that's a bad answer. I think that's a responsible, well-informed answer.
Yeah.
Let's hear some other questions from the group,
Yes.
either in person or on chat.
Sometimes we sit in awkward silence for several minutes. Don't worry.
Okay.
While someone's typing something out, I'll ask one. So, Nicole, can you give some advice on what's really important immediately following like a hard workout? I've always heard that you should try and get some kind of carb protein mix within 30 minutes of a hard workout to really accelerate your recovery process. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah. So I guess it's hard because there are only a few people here, but I was going to say, who knows what glycogen is? Does anyone know what that is? The only way I can kind of explain it is that, do you know what a carbohydrate is? If you know, like kind of like the basic structure of it, just picture that packed together, connected over like a long, like just like hundreds and hundreds of carbohydrates connected together, but really packed down and put into your muscles. So in order for us to get energy to move our muscles and not hit a wall, there has to be this storage form of glucose. It's called glycogen. And so if there isn't, you'll hit a wall. You'll hit a wall. Literally, that's the feeling that you feel, or you feel like really tired if there's not enough carbohydrates. So when you do have a very hard workout, yes, it's great to have protein, but there is a specific window after a hard training session that you need to have carbohydrates in order to replenish what was lost, or else it will get shunted to the liver, because the liver is important, more important than the muscles. So if you don't ideally have a snack or have a meal within an hour is ideal, right after a hard training, really, honestly, any training, because I'd rather just say any training and have you do it than say specific trainings and have you forget. So I would say every training session, if you have like the big one, the top of the line snack is a chocolate milk. And I think people think that's crazy, but consider what's in it. It has carbohydrates because of the chocolate, and also because milk has carbohydrates, and it has calcium, it has vitamin D, and it has protein. All the things that you need to rebuild muscle, bones, and the glycogen that should be going to your muscles. And so the last thing you ever want to deal with is, you know, having your body use the glucose that's running through your bloodstream as a source of energy. It's the last thing you want to do. You'll feel it. You'll feel like poop. So it's essential that within an hour that you have, you know, I would say like 30 grams of carbohydrates and roughly 10 to 20 grams of protein, which is like, 8 to maybe 1 to 2 cups of chocolate milk, or like one of those core power drinks. You drink that and you'll get everything you need. And so remember, you can't immediately feel the effects of good nutrition. The only time you feel it is when you're so low that once you get it, you're like, oh my God, I'm brought back to life. Like, and that's why I gave that example about, like, I think I was at mile 8 in my Surf City half marathon, and I knew it. I needed like a Skittle. Like, I needed something sweet. And so I had some blocks and some gels. I took a few and I got like a new life, and it pretty much solidified that my body had used everything up and I was about to like hit a wall. And so it's important to get those carbs and proteins at the right time. That's the timeline. That's the third step.
So we got some questions rolling in. I'm going to go in reverse order because Gretchen has one that's kind of tied into the milk recommendation. Is whole milk versus low-fat milk? Is one better than the other? Does it matter?
So I like that question. It's a good question. One is, I would say whole milk for you guys, only because you guys have a tendency, this age range, and the fact that you guys are runners, you have a tendency to under-consume your total calories, your total energy needs. And so when you have that whole milk, you're getting just a little bit more calories through fat, which is fine, no big deal, because the next day you're going to use all that fat anyways. So it's better to have whole milk, get a little bit more calories, really replete yourself so that you avoid this thing called, it's changing. Women typically experience it. It's called a female athlete triad, but men are very much prone to it. And so we've changed it to relative energy deficiency syndrome. REDS is what they call it. And it's a syndrome because you typically have low energy availability, which pretty much means that you burn more calories than you eat. And then also you start to have brittle bones. And with women, they typically lose their hormones, estrogen, progesterone, typically get very low because you're not getting enough energy and you're not getting enough fat. So I would say whole milk for you guys. But if you can't, low fat milk is fine too. But like I said, whole milk because it has more calories.
Okay.
And
we have a question about lactose intolerance, and I know you work with a lot of like vegetarian and vegan athletes, but is it the same for oat milk, almond milk, cashew milk, all the different kinds of milks out there?
So making sure that it's fortified. And so I would look at the product. They're not all created equal when it comes to calcium and vitamin D. So I do like, I don't know if this person has tried the Fairlife. It is ultra filtered. So it's low lactose. I don't tolerate a lot of lactose, but I do like the Fairlife beverage. But if you don't want to do that, I would just make sure that you look at the product. Make sure it says that it's fortified. And if it's not fortified, then we just have to make sure we get your calcium in other areas in regards to that. So you don't have to do a chocolate milk after practice. You could do peanut butter. You can do beef jerky. You can do tuna pack. You could do a lot of other options. I just said milk is a good one.
I can just see all these kids like finishing their hard workout and like busting out their can of tuna.
I work with combat athletes, and so they're always trying to come down to weight. And so it's just pure protein, a lot of omega-3. I don't know. It was just like their thing that they would do. But
well, and the girl who asked it, Allie, she's a combat athlete as well. So.
Oh.
So Nolan asks, how do electrolytes play a role in diet and training?
Yes, so that would go more into the hydration section. And so electrolytes will include your potassium, your sodium, your chloride. Those are important, especially when it's hard to say. I'm so used to thinking in a combat brain. So when they come down to weight, they need it afterwards to refuel. So it's the same thing with dehydration. They dehydrate themselves. So after your training, especially because after your long run, you've lost weight, making sure that you have that Powerade or that Gatorade or that some sort of drink, and you can make your own version. I think I saw online like coconut water and cherry juice. It's a little bit of salt, and someone made their own version of an electrolyte drink. You can also use Pedialyte. That's like a go-to. I love Pedialyte. Just 2 packets of Pedialyte. You get your sodium, your potassium, your chloride, and then you get like 2 carb servings. So 30 grams of carbs. It's like the most bang for your buck, you know, like you can't go wrong. And so milk is also good because it does have a lot of electrolytes as well. It secretly does have your potassium, and then it has some sodium in there as well. Gatorade and Powerade, it's hard because they've changed their formulation. It used to be salty and you could taste it. Now, not so salty because people like sweet drinks. So I would say with those, try to add a Pedialyte packet if you can, or a little bit of salt. Make sure it tastes a little salty. But that is about hydration, how much weight you lose. But electrolytes are important.
All right, so scrolling back up, Quinn asks, could nausea also be related to low iron levels? Because she's been experiencing a lot of nausea almost every morning and evening.
But you've been taking the iron, right?
She just started taking iron, but that she was pale and weak and those other things. But the nausea it's been for months.
Okay, because iron makes people feel nauseous and gives them stomach aches. That's a whole nother topic. And so yes, low iron levels can cause a lot of different things, and nausea can be one of them for you. And so it just takes time of adding back that iron supplement into your diet so that we can bring it back up to normal. I'm just so curious how she felt after taking the iron, because typically people feel like they get another life back into them. So yeah, nausea can be something that you experience with low iron levels. So I would say take the iron supplement, see how it goes. You might still feel nauseous. I would say talk to me about it, because I can change it a little bit so that you don't feel as nauseous. Yeah, it takes tweaking.
Sounds like we'll be calling you up. We'll be reaching out to Nicola Alai, sports dietitian.
Yeah.
So Brooke has a question. Can migraines mean you're low on some type of vitamin or mineral?
Okay, I had an athlete who was having severe migraines during her competition, and she found, I mean, this is not for everyone, this was just her, and this could be a mixed picture. I don't know enough about you to tell you what it could be, but when you sometimes have low blood pressure, it can cause that. And for this specific athlete, she was a fencer, and during competitions, she would have like pretty bad, I think it was actually during practice, she would have pretty bad migraines. She didn't know why. She didn't know how to fix it. And I was trying to do the research to see what was out there. There's not a lot of stuff. And then one day she said, Nicole, I ate and I'm not recommending this unless you want to try it, but she had like a bowl of top ramen. And I don't know if you know, but top ramen with the seasoning has like 1,600 milligrams of salt. And she's like, I felt great the next day. And so like I said, do you have low blood pressure? This girl may have had low blood pressure during that time, because we had asked her, like, did you have low blood pressure before? She said, no. Sometimes people forget things, so she may have had it and she didn't know. But after having that much salt, she felt significantly better. I don't say just have the sodium, of course, like have some water with that, because you can't have one without the other. But that helped her significantly. And so it could be something you'd want to try. But there are actual like sports nutrition supplements that have a lot of sodium in them instead of doing top ramen. Or you could do top ramen, up to you. I would say add some veggies, add some protein, like that's all.
Great questions, guys. Anyone else? We got about another 5 minutes before we come up on an hour. Any other questions for Nicole while we have her here? Don't be shy.
Okay, so another migraine question. So this is from Morgan, who does have low blood pressure, right? And a low heart rate. And she says, any recommendations for people dealing with high stress related migraines? Her migraines aren't actually bleeding. They're just going in. They're affecting her running.
High stress related migraines. So if you're not stressed, you don't have migraines. I just want to clarify. So if you're not stressed, you don't have migraines. Okay, so then you're trying to get to the root of the problem, which is stress-induced migraines. So that might be a way to help remedy stress via nutrition. You could do, I'd have to look up specific. There are certain things that can help. So a lot of these serotonin, melatonin, those help with anti-anxiety. L-theanine is another one. So that can be found in cherry juice. So you could have that Cherry Bundy brand has a cherry juice, and it has a sleep one. And I wouldn't say it will put you to sleep, so don't think of it that way. But if you had this is one intervention you could try, if you had some of that tart cherry juice, maybe 30 minutes before, like taking sips and trying to finish it before running, you could see if that helps. But it's stress inflicted, so you have to find a way to deal with the stress. I can only give you nutrition related stress recommendations.
We'll have a psychologist on next week, Morgan, to answer the second half of that question.
Yeah.
All right, well, we're wrapping up. I just, so we recorded this obviously, and we'll put on the resource page for all of you that are on, if you want to go back and re-listen to anything that Nicole went over. I'm also wondering, Nicole, could we maybe get a PDF of your presentation that we can also use? I know I was taking pictures.
I got it already.
Okay, cool. She's already got it. I was taking pictures of your easy plate, your moderate plate, or whatever you were calling it.
I can send those handouts too, so if people want it, you can have it.
So actually, everyone, hold on. I'm going to share my screen for just a sec. Oh dear, what happened to my, okay, let me escape that. Over here on our resource page, remember last track season when Jim and I did a mini nutrition clinic, basically reminding you, don't forget to eat fruits and vegetables, stop eating so much crap. And by the way, here's what your plates should look like. So those handouts are already on the resource page. I will, for some reason, my computer's taking a really long time, but when we get down to all of our, what are these? Here we go. All of our clinics, nutrition for running success. I think that is Nicole's. Let's see if it's there. But I think these are the handouts. Yes, these are the handouts that Nicole gave us already that have the plates, and you'll get the PDF from today as well. And this also has what she was talking about, the reds. Oh no, I guess it's not on here.
Yeah,
somewhere I have that. Did I pass it already, or is it another?
I think it's the other PDF.
Oh, got it. Oh, there we go. It's female athlete triad because, like Nicole was saying, we used to think this only happened to girls. It tends to be more pronounced in girls, and it happens a lot because girls tend to want to starve themselves, where boys are less likely to do that. But boys, it doesn't mean that you're not secretly starving if you're not fueling yourself properly. So anyways, those things are already here on the resource page for you. I will add the recording and the slides from today so that you guys have that.
Yeah.
So thank you so much, Nicole, for doing this. I think this came through loud and clear to everybody. But again, as we try and grow as a team and look for things that are going to help separate us from our competition, nutrition, hydration, rest are three major foundational blocks into you guys and girls getting better. Especially with a lot of the running that you guys are doing. Some of you guys are doing more running than you have ever before or harder. These are all things that are going to help you get better. So I hope you took something, whether it's one slide or two slides or some piece of nugget of information from this. But these are things that are just going to really help us get to that next level. So Nicole, thank you so much for doing this.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
And I know Nicole recently relocated back to her hometown. Are you in Huntington now?
Yeah.
Back to her hometown of Huntington Beach, California, and is seeing clients. So if you're someone who wants to get something personalized for you, I highly recommend. I know Morgan's already working with a dietitian, but a lot of us, right, recognize, like my own kids saying, I tried this and I tried that. Like it's one thing to, right, I can call myself a nutritionist because I Google things. But it's a whole other thing to work with someone who has the expertise and the wherewithal to really troubleshoot. So I know I'll be reaching out to you, Nicole, but everybody else, if you didn't catch Nicole's info from the last slide, we will for sure be sending it out. In fact, I'm looking at Coach Shack right now. We'll just compile everything, send it out to Coach Shack so that she can send it out to all you parents. Because chances are there's parents here nodding their head going, oh, I think my kid needs to talk to a dietitian, more than kids raising their hands saying, sign me up. And I do want to say to all of you who we haven't seen in a while, it's so wonderful to see so many people who maybe can't make our 8 a.m. calls, but are here getting this good info in the evening. So Nicole, thank you. Coach Shack, any parting words? I didn't see your face until right now, sorry.
It's the witching hour here, so we're off and on. And we're feeding fruits with our carbohydrates because, I can't get a 1-year-old to eat veggies, but goals. But good to see you guys. Thank you, and see you on Friday too.
Yeah. Thanks so much, Nicole. Any closing words for the people who are here?
Yeah, I mean, it's a lot of information, and if you're ever not sure, yeah, shoot me an email. And like something to remember is that nutrition doesn't happen, like good nutrition doesn't happen overnight. It takes time to start to see the results. Same thing with running. Like, nutrition takes time to see the results. And so I just, be patient.
Good advice.
All right, everybody. Have a great rest of your week. Enjoy your recovery day tomorrow. And we'll see you back here Friday morning at 8 for our Friday Zoom meeting.
Bye.
Bye, guys. Thanks, Nicole. Oh, I forgot to answer Tommy's question. Oh, well.